Whelan Presley and Van Ho Funeral Homes have been serving Quad City families and veterans for over 100 years. Whelan Presley is located in Rock Island, Milan, Reynolds, and Van Ho in East Moline, proudly supporting WQPT. Alternatives is a proud supporter of WQPT and has been serving our community for 40 years. Alternatives provides professional guidance to maintain independence and quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities.
It's three simple numbers, but is it making a difference? A closer look at 988, the response for those seeking help, and how it's changed how people help other people in the cities. It's been a year since the effort to help those in crisis seeking help has been simplified. Have you heard of 988? Don't feel bad if you haven't. It's the nationwide crisis line that's not so dissimilar to 911. 988 is a crisis line that's designed to get fast help to those facing a mental health emergency. But has it been effective after its first year in operation? We talked with Angela Gallagher, the executive director of NAMI, Greater Mississippi Valley. So it's been just a little over a year since 988 was implemented. First off, you must be very happy it exists.
Absolutely. It reduces confusion.
Yeah.
So often people don't know where to turn, and so 988 certainly simplifies where to find help.
And what have we learned over the last year of having 988? I mean, what, besides the increase in calls, what have we learned about the availability and the ease of use for people who are in crisis?
Well, the 988 system certainly has a long ways to go, but it was designed to be the first step in connecting people in what has traditionally been a very fragmented behavioral health care system. And so my organization exists because so often individuals and families just don't know where to turn. They don't know where to start. So 988 certainly simplifies that. They have access to, can recommend healthcare providers and provide wraparound services if people need it.
And I think that's kind of interesting what you were just saying, because I think a lot of people just think 988 is a suicide line.
Well, that's what it was designed for, was substance use and mental health crisis. However, to be in crisis doesn't necessarily mean you're suicidal. We experience that oftentimes people might be out of medication and they know they're falling back into illness or they missed a doctor's appointment. And so 988 can be used as a conduit to help people gain access to services, get connected with the right resources, and also families are encouraged to use 988 to help figure out how to connect their loved one to services.
Let's talk about that, because I think that's kind of the surprising part, is that people may not think that 988 is for that purpose.
Yes, and sometimes there's concern that if they dial 988, there'll be police involvement. And what we really want the community to understand is that there's trained mental health counselors answering those phones. They've got extensive databases, can answer questions, and quite frankly, in the state of Iowa, 97% of calls are actually they resolve the issue even when a person is suicidal in less than 11 minutes. So oftentimes people just need someone to talk to and talk through the issue, and then they may need to be referred to a local social service agency for resources. Or if the situation is critical, we're very fortunate in both Western Illinois and Eastern Iowa to have mobile crisis response teams. Those teams are more streamlined on the Iowa side. Counselors can be deployed with or without law enforcement to literally go out and help someone. For instance, if they don't have medication, they can get a couple days of medication and then follow up and make sure people have got their care coordination appointments to get that individual back on track and out of crisis.
We have seen large increases in the use of 988 in the past year. What does that tell you? Is it that there's a greater problem, or is it that people just find this an easier way to find a solution?
Well, certainly the statistics show that coming through the pandemic, we've had quite a time and a lot more anxiety and depression. But I think it's the availability of the number and easy access to help.
It is also interesting, one of the statistics that I found is that more young people and more LGBTQ people know 988. I mean, it's a number that they have become more familiar with. What does that speak to?
Well, I think I think the statistics show that the LGBTQ population actually are the most in tune with that number, and youth are in tune with that number, and I think it speaks to ease of access, and I just want to say it's a good thing, because those groups of people are at the highest risk for suicide. The latest national data that's come out in the last 6 to 10 months is just pretty startling, particularly for young women and for African American males. The suicide ideation rate and attempted suicide rates have skyrocketed.
Attributed to?
Well, for young women, the CDC in their report, and they were looking at 2021 studies of why this was happening. They had a sense back in 2020 this was happening, but in 2021, when they took a look at the data, young women in particular have been forced into sexual acts that they didn't, they said something like 60% of young women have experienced sexual acts that they didn't intend to have. I think the use of social media, where you literally can't turn it off inside your own house. So the bullying, the school-type bullying continues for young women. And they are significantly more affected than young men. I mean, the suicide ideation rate only jumped 5% for young men, whereas it's 60% for young women. For Black males, male youth, it may be more socioeconomic factors, and also access to care in communities that are more at risk for poverty, accessing competent quality care, people that understand your community has been a challenge, not just here, but across the nation.
When you talk about 988 being easier access, just an easy number to remember, and what is being offered is a lot of different types of guidance, does it also help, because let's be honest, there's so many deserts for mental health help. I'm thinking mostly rural areas, but there's deserts elsewhere. Has 988 helped kind of even the therapy level between rural and urban areas?
No.
Yeah.
No, we're still at a deficit. I mean, we're working with a rural Muscatine County community where their greatest hope is that they're going to be able to have telehealth because they don't have any access to in-person mental health care. Physical health care, yes, but not mental health care. So that's a challenge. And even for farming communities in particular, there's been discussions about how that community is at risk just because they're in a rural population and they're under a lot of stress.
20% of calls to 988 over the last year, one of the 5 million nationwide, was from a veteran. And so, I mean, that is still a growing problem in the veterans community.
Absolutely. Veterans are at risk, and it can be the baby boomer generation, the Vietnam generation. But anecdotally, I also understand through working with the veteran community that even young active duty personnel who have not even been deployed are experiencing behavioral health issues.
Are we just more sensitive than before? I mean, let's be honest, especially in the military, it was a pretty much, if you show weakness, then you're weak.
Correct. And they use the term, we're all squared up. In other words, there's no problem here. There's no problem in this house. And so I think we are more sensitive to it. But again, anecdotally from working with various military organizations, their people are at high risk for a variety of reasons. And it's not necessarily combat.
We were talking once again about the ease of using 988, and you just think of it basically as a phone call. But there's been a huge increase in texting for help to that number. First off, how does that work? And is that one of the reasons why you think it can be more successful for your younger generation?
It's certainly the communication medium for those generations, isn't it? Online chat is available as well, but the chatting has increased according to the data, but not the way texting. I think you and I talked about over 1,000% increase in the last 12 months in texting.
Well, but I can't imagine that you're getting relief from texting rather than, I know it's not face-to-face, but at least voice-to-voice communication with somebody who is a trained professional. How does the texting work? I'm not an expert on that, but we know our younger generations are just glued to their phones, and that's their version of communicating. So tell me about what's on the other side of the line. That is the people that are the therapists, the people that that do that. What kind of training is required? And they must have a huge amount of information because the spectrum of mental health is so large as well.
Well, the main crisis service that answers our phone lines in Western Illinois and Eastern Iowa are looking for counselors. They require a bachelor level degree, I believe, and they also do 40 hours of intensive training as well as supervised work. So the people answering those phones are well prepared to deal with a variety of issues.
And you're always looking for somebody else, I take it. I mean,
yes, they tell me they are.
What type of person is this? I mean, it's got to be a very difficult job because we were talking about empathy. I mean, first off, you need the empathy as well as the knowledge.
Right. So I think if it's a bachelor's level, it may be someone that was interested in psychology. People go on to work in social work, and I've talked to people that have studied in those fields and consider it an important work to do, maybe as a first part of their career.
Let me talk about some other areas of mental health, and one is that the state of Illinois is calling for more mental health services for children, kindergarten through 12th grade. That's got to be a win in your column, is that there is a greater need there.
Yes. And NAMI Illinois has been working on advocating for additional resources. NAMI National actually has a poll where they talk to youth, and they're looking for not only greater access to health care, but to start conversations earlier. And the youth are telling us that they look at schools as an important place to receive that information, right behind their parents.
Because of the trust level?
They trust their teachers, yes. But our survey also showed that while students are more willing to talk about it, would like to talk about mental health and mental wellness, they don't know how to start the conversations. So for instance, our organization has some evidence-based programs that we use going into schools that are kind of stigma busting. A young person talks about their own experience of growing up with a mental health condition and what their road to recovery looks like. And we call that program Ending the Silence.
So it's more peer-to-peer.
It's peer-to-peer. That's kind of what the NAMI organization specializes in that we learn from one another through lived experience. And
when it comes to children, let's talk about the pandemic. And I want to ask it for adults as well, but children in particular. Is this going to be a long-term impact on the mental health of children because of the disruption in their school lives, which, it's been 2 years since the worst of the interruptions occurred, but we're still feeling the impact right now?
Yeah, counselors tell us that they're seeing that, and part of that has to do with socialization and how a young brain works and how it connects. And I think me personally, coming through the pandemic, I don't have children. I was kind of surprised at how much youth need one another, right, to socialize and to be part of that growing up process. So just hanging out at home with the family wasn't all that helpful for them, oftentimes because there might be something going on inside the family that's not so good.
I see. Well, and the stunting of socialization would be difficult too if you're not around peers, you're not around people that you do learn from. And so is this something that we'll get over, or is this going to be a scar on this generation?
I think this generation is impacted and in their ability on how to communicate. Yeah.
How do you solve that?
Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an ongoing effort. Let's talk about adults as well. I mean, supposedly we were able to figure it out far easier, but there's a lasting impact the pandemic is on adults as well.
There is, although statistically, I think we rebounded. The amount of anxiety and depression reported during the pandemic, I think for adults was 1 in 3, and I think we're back at 1 in 5 now, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. So maybe we were a little more resilient than the younger generations.
Is it mostly anxiety?
Through the pandemic, yes, and anxiety and depression.
Tell me about the economic issues right now, because usually when you have depression and anxiety, a lot of times it has to do with a bad economy. You're going to see it increased as well. And we've gone through some economic times right now and continue to. Is that still weighing heavily on a lot of people who either dial 988 or the people that NAMI tries to help?
Well, I think we see that our community in general is still struggling. Our economy isn't super wonderful right at the moment, and there are people who are at risk who have lost benefits recently, coming through the COVID benefits. And so there's a number of groups of people in our community that are still under economic stress. And also what we saw in the pandemic, if you remember, is we had a lot of racial tension. And that certainly affected populations, Blacks, Asians, Latins, who were already at risk because they often don't have access to health care or insurance to pay for it.
Where do we go from here when it comes to issues of mental health? Because it seems that in some ways the stigma has been reduced, not eliminated, but been reduced. Is that the way you see it as well?
Yes, there's been some studies done, particularly with a group out of Chicago who work with, in particular with the Black community in Chicago, and they found that there's a willingness that the Black community wants services. They hope the federal government will fund more services and connect the dots behind the 988 number. They want more access. So there is still heavy stigma in many racial communities, but I think the conversations are beginning to open up.
And that's interesting that you say that because, as you said, a lot of people just don't know how to take that first step. And the self-recognition can be very difficult as well.
Right.
So how do you take that first step?
For many racial communities, including the Latin community and the Black community, it's a historical, there's historical trauma attached to mental illness. Researchers, trauma-informed care specialists understand that trauma can be passed from one generation to another. How they talk about mental wellness or mental illness is not in the same way that you or I might talk about it. The generations describe it as physical ailments a lot of times, not recognizing that it's a behavioral, a medical condition in the brain. And then the lack of peers in their own community. The lack of counselors who understand their community. And at NAMI, for instance, we have Black education instructors, and I consider that extremely important because they can stand up and often when there's presentations in their community, they talk about the phrase, what happens in this house stays in this house. And one of my Black education instructors said she was so surprised to understand that white families have those same rules too. She thought it was just her culture.
What do you want to see from 988 in the future? I mean, we've got 1 year down. You can look back at the successes, but you also must look at the challenges and perhaps even the frustrations.
Right. So in particular, I know the state of Illinois, just in the way their crisis phone systems were set up, was, this first year was physically very difficult to get everything connected. So that's to work on the infrastructure is very important. And then I would advocate that, again, 988 is just the first step. What happens? Where are the resources that come behind that? And again, those are, as in rural communities, potentially very sparse. And even in populated areas, it's often very difficult to know how to access services and how to connect the dots between the different providers.
Our thanks to Angela Gallagher, the Executive Director of NAMI, Greater Mississippi Valley. And once again, you are not alone. There are a number of local resources for you if you need help or you need to help someone else. And once again, you can always call or text 988. Laura Adams has been keeping a close eye on different events and activities and fun times that you can expect to see in the cities in August. So here's Laura, out and about.
This is Out and About for August 4th through 11th. The Mississippi Valley Fair continues through August 6th, and the Bix Jazz Festival continues through the 5th at Rhythm City Casino. It's time for the bi-state competition called Tug Fest between Port Byron, Illinois and LeClaire, Iowa, with carnivals, tug, and fireworks, while the Heartland British Auto Fest takes place on the 5th in LeClaire. Susie Bogus with special guest Morgan Miles performs at Bishop Hill at Concerts in the Colony on the 5th, and the Migrant Quilt Project exhibition continues through the 27th at the German American Heritage Center. Auditions are being held at Playcrafters Barn Theater for Skeleton Crew on the 5th and 6th, while on stage, Puffs, a magical take on a certain boy with a scar, is on stage at the Spotlight Theater the 4th through the 13th. Circa 21's musical Escape to Margaritaville continues, while the musical Pippin is presented by Quad City Music Guild the 4th through the 12th. The Crooked Cactus Band performs at Bass Street Landing on the 10th. Kiwani Concerts in the Park at Veterans Park takes place on the 10th. The Railside Music Series presents Dino Ride on the 12th at Poor Brothers. DeWitt's Tunes in Town present The Hitmen at Lincoln Park on the 8th. Finesse Two Times takes over the Russ Spelt stage on the 5th, while Danny Lynn Howe performs at Rhythm City Casino on the 5th. For more information, visit WQPT.org.
Thank you, Laura. Charlotte Boyer says she's been a lover of music since she was just a child. And it was just a few years ago when she took the stage of the Black Box Theater to perform for all of us. Here's Charlotte Boyer with Free Like a Bird.
Whoa, wouldn't it be nice if I could fly? Because I'd be the bravest bird in the sky. Whoa, I'd be free from all of my pain. Whoa, I'd be free to fly away. As I see the little children playing in the street, they all look so young, wild and free. That was exactly what I wanted to be. Live all my days young, wild and free. And now that I am free, I can spread my wings. No, there is no worrying for me. I feel like I'm a little kid again. Don't worry, my friend, I'll see you again. But just promise me you'll always give and love. Now you should follow this promise, it isn't tough. And I'll tell you this, you got to learn to love. See, you got to learn to give to those who got it rough. Now I'm sorry, friend, this is my time to go. Yeah, I've already told you all you need to know. Whoa, wouldn't it be nice if I could fly? Because I'd be the bravest bird in the sky. Whoa, I'd be free from all of my pain. Whoa, I'd be free to fly away. Yeah, I am free, I am free, I am free just like a bird. I am free, I am free, I am free just like a bird. I am free, I am free, I am free just like a bird. I am free, I am free, I am free just like a bird.
That's Charlotte Boyer with Free Like a Bird, performed at Moline's Black Box Theater. On the air, on the radio, on the web, on your mobile device, and streaming on your computer. Thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
Whelan Presley and Van Ho Funeral Homes have been serving Quad City families and veterans for over 100 years. Whelan Presley is located in Rock Island, Milan, Reynolds, and Van Ho in East Moline, proudly supporting WQPT. Alternatives is a proud supporter of WQPT and has been serving our community for 40 years. Alternatives provides professional guidance to maintain independence and quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities.